everybody, and welcome back. My name is Melissa. I'm new here. This is just going to be my third video. Today we're going to be making chicken and pastries. It's a dish my dad taught me how to make, and he's from North Carolina, lower North Carolina. I've never seen anybody besides the people in that region make it. So once I start making it and you're from a different state, let me know. And I want to apologize ahead of time to all my people down North Carolina, because I do make it a little bit different than they do. But my dad taught me how to make it, and he lived to be in his 90s, and that's the way I've always had it for the past 50 years, is the way I'm going to show you how to make it. Okay, so I've got a few of the ingredients already prepped. This is chicken stock that I had made earlier in the week. So we're going to pour that in the pan. And I've already shredded my chicken, because we had those chicken breasts earlier in the week. We made the chicken in a nest or in a basket. So I cooked up the other chicken and already shredded it and just threw it in my freezer. So we have that already ready. I'm going to put that in there. And then we also are going to add 1 packet or 1 cube, whatever you got for chicken bouillon, powdered in a jar, whatever you like to use. And I only use 1 packet of it. Then I'm going to put some pepper in. I do not put no salt in until the very, very end, because we don't want this to be too salty. A large portion of pepper. Then we're going to put in, I'm going to learn to use my measuring things. We're going to start with, that's a good 2 tablespoons of sage. Now, all my relatives down south do not put sage in this, but this is how my dad made it, so this is the way I've always made it. So that's an extra ingredient that a lot of people do not use. So we're going to turn this on, let this all kind of come together. And while that's heating up, we're going to make the pastries. We're also going to fill up this container with water and add that when we come back over. So I'm just going to move you for a minute so we can get over here. I'm going to fill up my container of water. And I'll just be off for 1 second. That's all I'm doing, is pouring this container of water in. Now this one, all we're going to do is use a cup of flour, 1 egg, and we're going to melt this stick of unsalted butter. You really want to use unsalted butter because you don't want too much salt. It'll take over the flavor of everything. So I'm going to grab 1 cup of flour, in the bowl. The only thing I've changed in the years of making this is that I've seen some people down south, when they made it, is they do add an egg to it. My dad never added an egg to it, but I think it helps it out a little bit. And then I have a cup of water. We're going to wait for our melted butter. We'll let it cool down for 1 second, because I got one more thing I want to grab and I forgot. So these pastries, you want them to be like a yellowish color. You really don't want them to be white. So we're going to add a few drops of yellow food coloring. And then I'm going to add just a little tad bit of water. The water we're going to add a little bit at a time. We start out with a cup of warm water. We're going to add our butter. Now this is something that you have to do with your hands. So you saw that I started with 1 cup of flour. Sometimes we have to add a little bit more. When you're working with flour, it all depends on the weather. Depends on a few different things. So already we know this is going to be too much, too soupy. We're going to add probably another 1/2 cup of flour to start with. We want this to be the consistency of like any other dough that you make that you're going to roll out. And I don't know if you can see how it's yellow because I added the food coloring. And by no means is this a non-messy thing. You're going to have flour. Your hand's going to be sticky. Anybody that's made any kind of bread dough, pie dough, and the only way you know that it's where you want it is by touching it. It's starting to come together, but it's still sticky, so we want to add a little bit more flour. Tad bit more. And that's about where you want it, because we're still going to add a little bit of flour once I move all this stuff and start rolling it out. We're going to throw the flour in here down. We're going to take that out. And we're just going to kind of knead it for a few minutes, adding this flour to it. And with any kind of soup or stew, like up north we make dumplings. Basically it's the same ingredients, but it's how we're going to make them. When I make it for chicken or beef stew, I drop them in by spoonfuls, so they puff up. These are going to be flat, and they don't puff up. We're going to roll them out, cut them into little squares, and that's why they call pastries instead of dumplings. Alright, so we're going to break this in half, grab some more flour, and like I said the other day, as much things as I take out ahead of time, I am always forgetting something, and that is my rolling pin. So what we want to do is flour our rolling pin. And we want to roll this out. We want to get it as thin as we possibly can. The thinner the better. I know I don't have no handles on this rolling pin, but this was my mother's rolling pin. And someday one of my guys are going to put some handles on it for me. But I still use this one all the time. And this is a marble one, so it's really good if you're baking, because it stays nice and cold. Your butter don't melt. Okay, so that looks pretty thin. I can see my board underneath. Then we're just going to grab a knife and start cutting them. They don't have to be perfect. You're just cutting along. to give me a good thing. And then we're going to go this way with them. They do not have to be all the same size. What really works good doing this actually is the pizza cutter, and mine has disappeared, so we're using a knife. But a pizza cutter, you're able to run right through it real easily. So we're not going to add these into that broth and water and chickens up to a boil. So I might have to put that up for a minute. Most definitely is on low. Let me just grab a plate so we can put these on, and we'll put the next ones. Now, a lot of people actually will put these in the freezer for a little bit and then throw them in, or because you can make them ahead of time. But usually once I set my mind on making these, it's one of my favorite comfort foods. I just want to eat them, so I don't mess about with none of that other stuff. And down south, you can actually buy them in the freezer frozen section, pre-made, Annie's Pastries. But I'm now living back up north, and they do not sell them around here at any store that I've ever been to. So, might be just a little time consuming, but in the long run, they're worth it. My husband was brought up north, and when my dad used to make them, he's like, oh, I'm not trying them, I'm not trying them. And then finally, after probably 20-something years, he did, and now he also eats them. Because basically, any dough with those ingredients is a form of a pasta, really. So, next we're going to roll out the next one. I'll just slide that over there for a minute. Need that again. Again, add flour to your rolling pin. Same thing, you just want to roll it as thin as you possibly can get it. And while I'm saying that, not everybody likes them super thin. Some people do like them thicker. I make them as thin as I possibly can because I'm in a rush to eat them. I want them to cook faster. So I like them super thin. But here in New England, we are having a rainy, cold day. Suppose it's better than snow, but it's a good day to have this hot meal. And again, it doesn't really cost all that much to make this. I had that chicken from the other day, because I only used a few pieces to make the chicken in a nest. So I already had the chicken. I had some broth I had already made. So that was all set. And then you got some flour, butter, and water. And like I said, the sage is optional. If you don't like sage or the taste of sage, do not put it in. I like it. And that's the only way I've ever had it. Oh, and there's going to be one more ingredient. I started putting this in it just a few years ago when I was living down in North Carolina, and I saw my cousins making it. They add a can or two of cream of chicken soup. It helps thicken it. So that's another reason why you don't want to add salt, because you got the salt from that. You got the salt from your stock. You got the salt from the bouillon cube. So it's really easy to oversalt this. So I don't even put any into the last taste test, if I need to. So we're going to add these to the plate like the other ones. And when that comes to the boil, I'll show you. I'm just kind of putting them on here, but we're definitely not going to just throw them in like this. But I'll show you when we get over there and once it's boiling. All right, what I'm going to do is give my hands a quick rinse. And what we're going to make, down south it's called hoe cake. Up north here it's called Johnny cake. It's a flat cornbread that we're going to have, because this is going to have a nice broth that we'll be able to put our cornbread in and soak up some of that broth. So while we're waiting for that to come to a boil, we'll get that out. All right, so this is all nice and hot. It came to a boil once, and I had turned it down and did something, but it's okay. So now we're going to start putting these in. We really only want to put in like one at a time because we don't want them to clump. So that's all we're doing. This will boil 10-15 minutes. You'll pull one out, you'll see, because like right here, you can see how the dough is raw. When you pull it out, it'll start turning, you know, it's cooked now, a cooked piece of pasta. If it's still raw down the middle right here, it needs to go longer. And that really depends on how thin and thick you have rolled them out. The thicker they are, the longer it's going to take. But now they're in Market Basket, they're in Walmart, Aldi's, all the stores sell them now. So when I get some more, I'll show you how to make them right from the stock. This, I do have to follow a recipe because I've only made it a couple times. So first we're going to need 1 cup of self-rising flour. I'm going to take that back. We're going to put the cornmeal in first because I already measured that out. Then 1 cup of the flour. We're going to add 2 eggs beaten. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of baking powder. We're going to add 1, where's my shirt right here in front of my face? Oops. That last one, I'm sorry, it was only 1 egg. I beat 1 egg and then didn't put the other one in. So now we got 2 eggs. We're going to need 1 tablespoon of sugar. We're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We're going to add, I'm trying to find my line up here, I missed it, 3/4 cup of buttermilk. So earlier, I did not have buttermilk. I took my regular milk, I added 1 capful of vinegar, let it sit out this whole time. We now have buttermilk. Then the last thing I need is 1/3 cup of water. And we're going to mix this all up and we'll get ready to fry it. So that's all we're doing, it's giving it a good mix. I'm going to give it a little bit more water. I held back a little bit because I didn't want it to be too loose. I got a little bit of egg left in there. Give everybody good mix. All right, I'm going to put you guys back over here to the stove. And we've got our cast iron pan heating up. You really, really want to use a cast iron pan for this. So we're just going to continue to let that heat up for a minute. We're going to put in a dab of butter. I already put in 2 good swirls of vegetable oil. You can see it's in there. So now we're going to add about a tablespoon of butter with it. Let that get nice and hot. While that's getting hot, all I'm doing over here, I don't know if you can see me, but if not, it's not a big deal, is adding my cans of cream of chicken soup. And like I told you before, get everything out, you paid for it. And like I said, this is an ingredient. My dad never used this, but watching my cousin make it down there, they added it, and I thought it tasted pretty good. All right, that'll kind of melt into itself. We've got this pan on like 4 on a gas thing, but I'm going to put it down to 2. I'm going to grab my mix. I've got a 1/4 cup measuring cup that I'm going to use. And then we're just going to let them fry up. And just like a pancake, you're going to spread it out a little bit. We'll let that go. And I'm going to continue making these, and I'm just going to put them on a paper towel, let the grease, kind of come out of it while we're waiting for this to continue to cook. And I'm going to taste this. I'll tell you. I'm going to taste it now before I tell you. I'm going to give this a little bite. No salt. It's perfect. It tastes great. It's fantastic, actually. So everything's fine. I'm not going to add no more sage, no salt. Only thing when I make my plate, I'm going to add some black pepper to it. That's it. So I'm going to shut you down while I continue to cook these. And it's exactly like a pancake. You want the brown on one side. You'll see the bubbles come up around it. You flip it. Same thing. And then you just continue making them. And then when I make my plate, I'll let you see it. Oh, okay. All right, so we're all done we're going to take a spoonful of this. Well, probably 2 spoonfuls of this. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper, because I like pepper. I'm going to add a little bit of butter.
Because butter makes it better.
Yep. And I'm going to grab one of my hoe cakes here. And I would love to be able to taste this for you, but it's so hot. I'm going to try. I might just be able to do the broth. That is so delicious. So, good night for now. I will be back. Hopefully you liked everything. Then that way you can give me a like. Maybe subscribe. God bless you. Have a great day. See you next time.